Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are continuing today our topic, which is at the time of death, and we are going to be reading a few things that Srila Prabhupada said. We originally created a document, which was just quotes of Srila Prabhupada, and then we got sidetracked actually, and then we started talking about criticizing devotees. Not sure exactly how that came up in relation to the topic. And we finished that topic, and last Friday we were reading something that Rabindra Prabhu wrote basically about the denial of the reality of death, because it's something naturally we prefer to not think about, and the problems that creates. And then we were discussing how Krishna said, you should talk about it. It's good. And we were discussing how people don't like talking about it and feel that we're very pessimistic because we talk about it. And then we were mentioning that it's just reality, and they don't like it. So Kamaniya, let's go back to the original document at the time of death, because I don't think we finished that, and I was thinking, rather than continuing today with the Rabindra Prabhu's article, I think we could wait and we could finish reading what we've read, what we were reading. The problem is, I don't know if we finished it or not. Not knowing whether or not we finished it, I'm going to start reading from page 34. And let's see when we read it if we remember. But I don't think it's at all harmful to remember, to reread. It's been a week or two. It's actually good to reread. Okay, so also, somehow or other, Mangalananda Prabhu's song, Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising, came up last week. Remember that? And I said, I will figure out how to play it. And I did. So, if you're lucky, maybe we'll play it at the end. It keep you to the end. Then I have to get the lyrics. Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising, although it's not at all surprising that we're dancing in the street, telling everyone we meet we're going home. So anyone who was a devotee in the 70s, that was kind of like, I don't know how we can explain it, but as you grow up with music. And so when you're older, you remember those songs you grew up with, and it reminds you. Nostalgia. So these were the songs. There were no songs in ISKCON. No English songs. Mangalananda, I believe, was the only one writing English songs. And he's an amazing musician and songwriter. And so these were kind of like the only songs in English that existed within ISKCON. So devotees of that era definitely remember the songs. I don't know if the devotees of following eras remember, but it's interesting songs. They had actually formed a band, and they were traveling and playing these songs. Okay, so we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava, just to get in the mood of Vrindavan, and then we're going to begin. We really need a mridanga player. That's the problem. This is I guess this is kind of a meditative. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari. Gopichana Bhava Girivara Dari. Swadhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jasadanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodhanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. One more time, everyone. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Okay. Now everybody's here. Okay. So, page 34, the quote is entitled, Only Sinful People See Yamaraj. And probably you're going to remember that we read this before. I think. I can't remember. But actually, you may not remember that we read this before. You may remember that you forgot that we read this. Everything you hear, you remember. And the proof is that when we read it again, you remember that you forgot it, that you actually read it. That's interesting. Isn't that interesting? I find that so interesting. You remember that you can't remember it until someone mentions it, and then you remember that you forgot it. So I think maybe we'll remember that we forgot it. So Kamaniya, only sinful people see Yamaraj. That will be where we'll start. So we will wait. Yeah. I think that is the last verse we read. I just took. Okay, good. So we'll read it again, just to make sure you remember it. Okay, so Kamani is going to, this is from a lecture, 1968, very early on in the movement. Actually, no, there's something wrong there. I don't think it's from a lecture in 1968. Anyway, so I'll read and Kamani will put it up. Now he again says that, I don't know who he is, those who are attracted to devotional service of Krishna, even to a very little extent, for them, nate yamam pashabhritascha tadbatan swapne pi pashanti hi chirna niskritaha. They do not even dream the Yamaraj or his constables. They don't see Yamaraj even in dreams. Because at the time of death, those who are very sinful, they are taken away to Yamaraj's place. That is a fact. Not only that, he, even in dream, does not see them, because that little service to Krishna has made him free from all sinful contamination. The very word used is chirna niskritaha, lecture June 4th, 1968. How long does it take to be Krishna conscious? That's the next one. Okay, so I chose this because, when we started this discussion, there was a lot of questioning. Am I qualified? Will I go back to Godhead? What is my position? And then we read many things glorifying the position of a devotee, the special position a devotee has, that one who engages in devotional service is protected. And so this is just an example of that protection. That, as we know, it is said that Yamaraj or the Yamadutas will not approach the devotees. And then here, it's saying, the devotee won't even see them in dreams. He'll never see them. He's protected. And I think when we were discussing this, we were joking. The Yamadutas come and you pull your neck beads. Devotee, where are my neck beads? Oh, I forgot to put them on. Tilak. Oh, I didn't put my tilak on. No, not exactly like that. Because anyone could wear neck beads and tilak. But still, at the same time, it said, when they see, here's a devotee, there's tilak, neck beads, and so on. They think, okay, next room. They're in the hospital. Yamadutas, they like to hang out in hospitals, right? It also, we read, of course, the Yamadutas will, in Ajamil's case, there were no neck beads and tilak, but there was Narayan on his tongue. So, he's a devotee. Anyone who chants the name of Krishna, he's a devotee. That's the idea. That's the definition. Mahaprabhu was asked, who is a devotee? One who chants the name of Krishna, the name of God. He's a devotee. So there's protection. That was why I put this verse up. The devotees are protected. In other words, the way Prabhupada explained it is like, you can give your life freely to Krishna, and you don't have to worry. Sarvadhamam parityaja. You don't have to worry about so many things. You could actually give up all your other duties and surrender to Krishna and think, but how could I give up so many duties? What about this? What about that? And then Krishna says, don't worry. I've got you covered, like an insurance company. It's like that verse, 1866, it's like the insurance company. We've got your back covered. Well, what about if my house burns down? It's covered. What about if my garage burns down? It's covered. What if my friend comes over and has an accident? It's covered. What if they sue me? You're covered. It's like that. That's the, 1866 is the insurance policy verse. Just sign here on the dotted line. What am I signing on to? That you're not going to try to be independent of me anymore. Okay, I can sign for that. You're going to do what I ask. Okay. And what do I get? Total coverage. Head to toe coverage. You don't have to worry. So that's the idea that Prabhupada has been conveying in the purports, in the verses and the purports we've been reading, that when you become Krishna conscious, then you're taken care of. Obviously, nobody can control personally their destination at death. That will be controlled by Krishna, or decided by Krishna. So we're seeing here now the Yamadutas, their business is not with devotees. Devotees they don't deal with them, they don't see with them, it's not part of their world. And then we had also discovered, specifically, the Yamadutas are there to take very sinful people after the time of death. The Yamadutas don't have to deal with people who are pious, who are taking a better birth. Specifically, they deal with people who are sinful. But when you're a devotee, obviously, they don't have to deal with you. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but this sounds good, but people are going to take advantage of it. They're going to try to wiggle their way out by, faking becoming a devotee or using devotional service as an excuse. And we know, as Prabhupada said, this is really interesting what he said, it's the seventh offense to the holy name, to commit sin on the strength of chanting. So you might say, well, I'm not committing sin on the strength of chanting. Well, indirectly, if I think I can commit a sin and, I just wear these neck beads. Make sure you're wearing your neck beads, Prabhus. Because if you commit a sin, when the Yamaraj and the Yamadutas see this, they're going to say, oh, darn it, we can't touch him. Well, it's not exactly like that. Wear these beads, wear your tilak, especially in your last days. Put Radhe Sham on your forehead. Okay, we will do all that. But that, and you might say, but even if I'm sinful all my life, in my last days, if I do that, then I could become Krishna conscious. And I can't assert or deny that, and definitely that's possible. But the point is, that's not the process. It's not the process, like just be sinful until the end of your life. And, the doctor told me I have 3 months left. Okay, all sinful activities finished now. I mean, of course, we should think that way, but that's the mentality of thinking that I can get away with so much because Yamadutas won't touch me, I'm a devotee. That is a problem. And probably we've seen too much of that problem. Kind of like I'm a devotee, I can do anything. Right? In the old days, they'd have these beautiful rose gardens. And then once the devotees got in the rose gardens, they weren't beautiful anymore because there weren't any roses left. They're all for Krishna, and it's Krishna's garden. He owns everything, so we have a right to take everything. And your neighbors just plant this beautiful garden of flowers, and the next day they come out and there's no flowers. But they offer to Krishna. They're on the altar. These people will make advancement. Yeah, that's true. But, our thinking was, we're devotees. We do everything for Krishna. So, where does that take you? What's the logical conclusion of that? Well, you can kill for Krishna. I mean, you can commit any sin for Krishna as long as you can some way justify that it's for Krishna. That's where that philosophy goes. And that was never taught by Prabhupada. But actually what Prabhupada said, he said the worst offense is the seventh offense. And the interesting point he made was that if I commit a sin premeditated with the intention of becoming free from that sin, if I chant the holy name, or we could replace that with if I engage in some Krishna conscious activity which would free me from sin, Prabhupada said that mentality and that action which you would take, even though it's devotional service that you're taking, I'm going to chant the holy name to become free from a premeditated sin. I intentionally plan to commit this sin, knowing that I would be free from the sinful reaction if I chant the holy name. Prabhupada said that mentality and subsequent action of chanting the holy name, this is interesting, is more sinful than the sin you committed. Isn't that interesting? Like, how can chanting Hare Krishna be worse than committing a sin? It's worse if you committed the sin with the intention of becoming free from the sin by chanting. Then your chanting is more sinful, is worse. That's so interesting, don't you think? Isn't that interesting? You find that interesting? I find it extremely interesting. Chanting Hare Krishna can be more sinful than a sinful activity? How is that possible? Well, you could say, well, actually the person who's chanting is not really chanting the holy name. Yeah, that's true. Not really chanting the holy name. Okay. But it sounds like he's chanting. It looks like he's chanting. So when we hear this story of Ajamil, we shouldn't think, whoa, where are my neck beads? I've been wearing them lately. Where's my jar of tilak? I want to make sure when I die, the Yamadutas, no. I'm getting a tattoo, on my wrist that says I'm a devotee of My dear Yamadutas, is going to be right here. My dear Yamadutas, I'm a devotee of Krishna. Don't touch me. It's not like that's not what Prabhupada's teaching us. Actually, I should get it. Just in case they look at this arm instead of this arm, I should get one here. Maybe on my neck or maybe forehead. Maybe on my head. I don't have any hair. I could do it there. They won't miss it there. Just in case you don't realize, I'm a devotee of Krishna. See you later. You can go to the next room in the hospital. It's not, that mentality, that's this cheating mentality, very prevalent in Kali Yuga, how you can get how can I get the $50,000 car online for $259? Something like, we just want to cheat the whole system. How could I? So committing sin on the strength of chanting is more sinful than the sin itself. How could devotional service be sinful? Well, it's not really devotional service. It's sinful more so. So that's interesting. So be careful. We don't want to use devotional service to validate our sins, at the same time go back to Godhead. And you go back to Godhead, after committing all these sins, if you could cheat the system, Krishna is going to look at you and go, what are you doing up here? You don't belong here. Who let you in? That was like a mistake. Get out of here. You're not supposed to be here. It's, of course, it doesn't happen when you go back to Godhead that they kick you out. But sometimes I like to use that analogy that when you go back to Godhead, well, they're actually going into Vaikuntha. There are security gates. Did you know that? There's 7 security gates to keep, you have to pass each security gate and they test your purity. Each gate is like we have at the airport, they check metal detector. I forget what what they're detecting, but they detect 7 different aspects as you go through each gate. And the last gate, I believe, is bhakti. Isn't that interesting? Did you know that? There's 7 kind of like, well, they're not metal detectors, they're like bhakti detectors. 7 bhakti detectors. So it would never happen that you sneak in the back door, you go through the gates when the guards are, taking prasadam or something. You sneak in. It's not going to happen. Sometimes I use that analogy. But this analogy is probably better because it's not an analogy, it's actually true. If you try to, cheat your way into Vaikuntha and think you're going to make it, well, there's 7 gates to get through, and they're going to look at you and they're going to say, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're not even going to make it through the first gate. But to speak of the other 6, get out of here. Go back. You belong in the material world. So this is an interesting concept. You belong in the material world. Who belongs in the material world and who belongs in the spiritual world? And the question I ask you is, where do you belong? Well, where you belong according to where your heart is. So where's your heart? If you went to the first security gate today, they're going to look at you. What are they going to say? Are they going to say, you don't belong here. You belong down there. You fit in down there. I mean, your mind, your heart, your words, your actions, they all fit in perfectly down there. They don't fit in here. If you want to come here, when you go back down there, work on developing the mind, the heart, the actions of people of this world, because you don't have it now. And if you don't have it, we can't let you in here because we don't allow people in here like you who are not pure. So it's a nice question to ask ourselves. How many gates would I pass? We have to find. Does anybody know what those gates represent? If not, I'll have to find out. How many gates will I pass right now? And what do I have to do to pass all of them? So as we cultivate material consciousness, material action, it's keeping us in the world because this is the world for that. If I'm envious, if I'm jealous, if I'm resentful, etc., then this is the world for me. People say, but I can't give up my resentment, this, that, and the next thing, right? They always say that, right? So hard to give up. Okay, that's fine, but then this is your world, because this is the world where that goes on. And if you want to go to that world, you better give up this stuff, because otherwise you're going to get to the gate. And, we can say the 6, defects, Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Matsara, Madan. Let's say for the sake of discussion, each gate was one of those. Kama, lust; Krodha, anger; Matsara, envy; Kam, Krodh, Lobha, greed; madness, a bodily concept; illusion, materially mad for sense gratification. So it's interesting under our position. And it's an interesting way to frame, okay, you ask yourself, what language do I speak? I think we had discussed this before. What language do I speak? Do I speak the language of the material world? Do I speak the language of the spiritual world? Well, what's the language of the spiritual world? No, I don't speak Sanskrit. No, that's not what we're talking about. The language of the spiritual world is glorification of Krishna, glorification of his devotees. The language of the material world is criticism, envy, putting down, sarcasm, absorption in material topics, to a total absorption in, what's going on right now in the world, or studying history, sociology, anthropology. Just total absorption. What's going on this planet or this universe? You can study. You can study unlimitedly any little aspect of this world. That's what a PhD is. You're taking one little topic and going very, very deep into that little topic, right? That may not be such a little topic, but in relation to all the possible topics you could study, it's just one of many. And it's a study of some situation, condition of this world, or scientifically, or sociologically, anthropologically, philosophically, religiously, some way you're looking at. Grammatically, language, there are so many things you can study. And so that's the qualification of remaining in this world. So when you go to the spiritual world, you go into the first gate, you're full of, if you're full of these qualities, if that's what you've practiced, then they're going to look at you and say, what are you doing here? This place is not for you at all. You have full qualification to live in the material world. You've cultivated it. You're perfectly suited to live there. So if you want to be perfectly suited to enter into Krishna Lila, then the envy, the jealousy, the greed, the lust, the bodily identification, the absorption in what's going on in this world as opposed to what's going on in Krishna Lila. All that you have to give up. And so here now, here now we're cultivating the qualities which would qualify us to get through those gates. That's a very simple way of understanding sadhana bhakti. It's just we're reframing our consciousness, we're reframing our heart, so that when we hit the end of our life, we'd be fully ready to enter that realm. Otherwise, we'd be thinking, oh, I don't really want to go there, because if I go there, I can't criticize anybody. And I really like to criticize people. It's really fun. I really enjoy it. And I don't want to go back to Gada because I can't criticize anybody. Number one, there'll be nobody to criticize. And number two, I would lose my propensity to criticize it. But I like to criticize. And sometimes we think, I wouldn't want to go there because then I wouldn't have this propensity to do something that I like doing. We think in a material way. But if I go there, I won't want to play rock and roll music anymore. And then if I don't play rock and roll music, I'll die. Some stupid thinking like that. So this is the preparation ground for becoming qualified. Like you become qualified to enter a university, you need certain grades. or qualified to do a master's or a PhD. So there's some, so we're becoming qualified through the process to become free from envy, lust, greed, and so forth, and to become absorbed in our hearts and in our minds in Krishna, and to detach from the things of this world that are so-called attractive, that possibly could attract us. We detach to the point where there's no real attraction anymore. Then we're qualified. So when you say things to yourself like, I just can't give up this, or if I didn't, have my ice cream every day, I would just die, and in the spiritual world there's no ice cream and I don't want to go there. How stupid is that thinking? Like, on the IQ scale, that's like -108, isn't it? It's like we should create a spiritual IQ, and then we can grade ourselves by these standards. And if your IQ is there's no rock and roll in the spiritual world, I'm not sure I want to go there. Should they play the Beatles up there? If they don't, I don't know if I could live. Or whatever your favorite band is, and whatever your favorite food is, and do they have tennis? Because I love tennis, and I don't know if I could give up tennis. That IQ is like -108. And we're supposed to understand that is the world of Ananda. This is not the world of Ananda. And so to even think that I wouldn't be happy there, that's more than -108. That's like -1008 on the IQ scale. Well, it's not spiritual intelligence. Yeah. So I think you understand. So now I saw that there were some questions or comments, and I have to bring my phone closer so I can read it and go back up. And welcome to all of you. And stay to the end. We're going to sing Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising. If you don't stay to the end, you're not going to hear that song. And I don't know how you're going to make it through your day if you don't hear that song. Okay. I went back to the beginning to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Are you ready to go back to Godhead? Another t-shirt, right? Well, it's not so special. We would go back to Godhead listening to your devotional voice. Hare Krishna. It's so easy to go back to Godhead now by the grace of Steve Jobs. Wherever you go, you can hear Krishna. That was a great service he did, in spite of all the people addicted to their phones and ruining their lives. That if you can use your phone properly, it's like you have the whole spiritual world on your phone. Like you can have every book written about Krishna, every lecture spoken about Krishna. That's like unimaginable 20, 30 years ago that could ever happen. Like all the Vedas, pocket Vedas. I've got all the Vedas in my pocket, If you said that 30 years ago, people would think, it's never going to happen. You could never do that. You got to carry around, trunkfuls of books, and you travel, with a trunk full because you want to read all the books. So, when you think about becoming Krishna conscious now, it's so much easier. I was just, before I get to your questions, I was just thinking the other day how, this is a guitar example. When I was young, rock and roll, as we know it today, was just starting to develop. And when anything starts to develop, the standard of what is considered excellent later on becomes average or normal. Like it takes someone to create or use his mind to create some new genre of music, of sound, of playing. But once he does it, then other people can copy it. So the hard part is creating it. The easy part is copying it. So nowadays, the average person growing up, let's say a guitar player, he has all these examples in front of him of how to play guitar that in my generation, there weren't as many. So you see many young boys now, they play guitar like as good or better like 30 years ago. It's normal. So that's the way it works. someone sets a standard, and then you do it. Before 1950, I believe nobody could run a mile in under 4 minutes, and then somebody did it. And then that year, like 50 people did it. So when someone sets a standard, they do it. So now, when I joined ISKCON, what was the standard? Senior devotees, seriously. I joined 1969. So my temple president had been a devotee maybe 3 years. He came probably 67, so 68, so maybe 2 years. Okay, we'll give the most 3 years. And that was like considered senior. Like he was my example. He's the one I learned from. And he was probably 29 years old or something like that. Right, so now you come to Krishna consciousness and you've got, and what access did we have to Prabhupada's books, lectures? Not a whole lot. Now you have all the books on your phone. You have hundreds of senior devotees with 50 plus years experience giving class. So just like that little kid who's 13 years old, he's playing guitar like the best guitar players 50 years ago. You have this opportunity. You're like so much has been done for you. So many examples have been set. So many amazing classes have been given. We didn't have these examples. We didn't have these classes. We didn't have these realizations. You have it now. So for you to say Krishna consciousness is difficult, for you not to realize how easy it is and how much facility it is, it only means you must not be taking advantage of it. Because we somehow or other made it in Krishna consciousness with none of that. Zero. And then finally the cassette player came out. Dun, 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 dun. Cassette player, that was like revolutionary. It was a box like this big. And then little cassette tapes. If you're young, I don't even know if you've seen a cassette tape. They record on magnetic tape. And so you carry this thing around, and it would record and play back. And they started producing Prabhupada's lectures, and so you could carry this thing with you, this box, right? And then they came out with a Walkman, which totally revolutionized everything. You could walk around. Walkman was like this big and put on headphones in here. Of course, you'd have to have piles and piles and boxes of tapes to listen to, right? If you'd have to have a room full of tapes just to get a fraction of what you could get on your phone. So you should know that you have so much facility now. So if I can't be Krishna conscious, it's too hard. I don't know. You've got such good facility to be totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness. I just want you to know that. What we never had, you have. That's my grief with the society we live in. There are flowers and no one is allowed to pick them. It's an eternal argument between me and the guards. Well, the way we look at it is, the flowers, they belong to Krishna, but Krishna has given them possession of another person or your apartment complex. You have to respect it. That's all. That's it. Otherwise, we just go to the grocery store and go, well, it all belongs to Krishna, and I'm going to offer this to Krishna, so let's just utilize the 5-finger discount and just take everything. And why should I not take everything? Because it all belongs to Krishna. Well, and your wife belongs to Krishna, so why shouldn't I take her? Because you're not a devotee. I'll engage her in devotional service. I mean, where does it end? So the next question is, what happens to one who isn't sinful in this lifetime but isn't a devotee? Do the Yamadutas still come? My understanding is the only reason the Yamadutas come is to punish sinful people. So if they're not, of course everybody's sinful, but if they're not grossly sinful or mostly pious, they'll suffer the karma in their next life for those sins. But the way it's explained in Bhagavatam is very sinful people will be going down, and the Yamadutas have to prepare them for the next body. And they kind of put them through situations which they're like willing to take anybody just to get out of the suffering. And kind of, transcendental TSA, security. So, yeah. And even sinful people, if they come in touch with Krishna consciousness, they're generally going to take a human birth. So, I mean, you and I and all of us have the power to help people tremendously, isn't it? Okay, I want to clean just see if this helps. Wow, that helped a lot. I'm out of the fuck. Did that help? I actually cleaned it with my kurta, but this seems better. Now, you thought I was effulgent before. Now you can really see. Okay. Hello to all of you. In relation, what you said, that we cannot overcome the system. How to understand the statement that Srila Prabhupada will let us get in the spiritual world by the back door? Is it not that we are trying to cheat the system using them? No. He'll only let you in the back door if you have 16 rounds, 4 principles, give your life to Krishna. Because when Prabhupada said, I'll let you in the back door, he said, just, grab onto my lotus feet. And one devotee said, Prabhupada, we always hear about this in the Shastra, the dust of the lotus feet. It's like, what is that dust? It's like, your feet aren't dusty. What does that mean, dust? Well, I guess sadhus used to walk barefoot, so they would be dusty. But Prabhupada said dust means instructions. You take shelter of the dust of the lotus feet means take shelter of the instructions. So Prabhupada is saying, you follow me, you do what I ask you, then I'll get you in. And I've always thought that if we do what Prabhupada asks, or we follow him, then we will become qualified. So, inherent in that statement is not like, okay, whatever, we'll let you in the back door. It's, no, if you follow me throughout your life, then you'll be qualified for the back door, maybe not the front door. But it is true, but we can't count on this, that Prabhupada could miraculously get us in and purify us in 1 nanosecond. And we told that story about this devotee named Gopal who died, and Prabhupada said he went back to Godhead, although he didn't deserve to, because we can only think Prabhupada prayed to Krishna for him. Okay, we'll let him in and we'll qualify him. So, yes, these are exceptions, but generally we don't focus on the exception because we can't count on the exception. And we don't want to cheat Prabhupada's system. Prabhupada, could I not chant 16 rounds and follow 4 principles and still get back to Godhead? Well, it's possible, but it's not what Prabhupada taught. So we don't want to stretch the system beyond how it works or how we're told it works. So Prabhupada say, you take shelter of my feet, you'll go back to Godhead. That means take shelter of the instruction. A lot of times Prabhupada said, you build Mayapur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will come and personally take you back to Godhead. Things like that. So thinking, okay, so all I have to do is help build Mayapur, and while I'm in Mayapur, I can just, come home at night after a day of service and just watch some Bollywood movies and eat pizza and ice cream, and I'll go back to Godhead. It could happen, but Prabhupada is not thinking within that context. He's thinking, you're a devotee, you chant 6 principles, you're strict, and in addition, if you can just make this happen, that will give Bhaktivinoda Thakur so much pleasure. It's like, not that you weren't going back to Godhead, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he'll take you. It's not like, if It's like you just won the prize of a vacation to the Bahamas. Okay, right? But this is not just a vacation to the spiritual world. And you're going to be escorted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's your escort. Not only you go back to Godhead, but he's taking you. He's going to meet you there. He's going to bring you. You don't have to worry. So it's something like added, bonuses. So, but it goes back to that other point. It's not like we should think we can compromise the system, buck the system. I go out and distribute lots of books, and Prabhupada said, if you dedicate your life to book distribution, you'll go back to Godhead. So, I stay up late at night on YouTube watching, or on Facebook watching cute cats do stupid things. And I get up late, sun has already risen, the day's already started, and I get up and, first thing I do is eat. No, not like that. It's not what Prabhupada's referring to. That, that mentality is more how we interpret it. Oh, it sounds like all I have to do is, if I just get my feet, I love distributing books. I love dealing with people. That's my ticket back to Godhead. But ultimately, you won't be able to do it unless you're Krishna conscious, right? True or true? Yes or yes? No, Janaki's in Puerto Rico. I haven't been there in it's been a long time. Andrea, all the way from Ecuador, right? Well, maybe it's another Andrea. Yeah, I think it's another Andrea. My question is, we are spiritual souls and our true nature. Isn't this material nature? Then do we sin? Do we sin? Why do we sin? Why do we do? The answer to your question is because we're stupid, but I'm going to read the question. Why do we do anything that's not Krishna conscious? Because we're stupid. So, we're spirit souls, and our true nature in this material nature isn't this material. Then do we sin and are attached to certain specific material sense gratification because we're conditioned by the material body, or it's this part of our mind? Yeah, same thing. Conditioned mind. Because it's said that we are here in the first place because we wanted to experience what it's like to be the ones in control. Yeah. I wanna be the one in control. Oh yeah, oh yeah. But it doesn't work. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I tried to be in control. Oh yeah, doesn't work. Oh no, oh no. It just took us like 10 billion lifetimes to realize it doesn't work. That's the problem. So we are conditioned. What does condition mean? When you're exercising, so you have to become conditioned to do this. Like if you do some exercise in the beginning, it's like, oh, it's so hard. I can't do it because you're out of shape. So do it every day, a little bit. And the next day do a little more strenuous. And after a while, it's just like normal. You become reconditioned. So it's like we're conditioned. We're out of shape. We're conditioned to Maya, yeah. The body's conditioned, the senses, the mind, everything, the intelligence. Everywhere you look, head to toe, we're in Maya, Just look at conditioned souls in the material world. Every inch of their existence, every inch of their body is beaming with material thoughts, ideas, and actions. Every inch of their lives, it's just me, or extended me. So yeah, that's the problem. We were talking about this. I don't know if we were talking about this in this class, but I believe it's the 12th chapter of the Gita. Krishna says, you should love me. If you can't love me, then... If you can't love me, then practice bhakti. If you don't love me, at least practice bhakti. And if you can't do bhakti, then just work for me. And then Krishna says, and if you can't do that, just do something for somebody. So You know those verses? Love me. If you can't love me, do bhakti, do sadhana, so you can develop love. If you can't even do that, just work for me. If you can't even do that, work for somebody. Work for some cause. Do something other than think about yourself, which is what you've been doing for unlimited numbers of lives. That's why Krishna says, you read that verse and you think, why would Krishna say, well, just give up the fruits of your action. Even if you don't serve me, just give up the fruits of your action. Don't do it for yourself. Because he's trying to break the cycle of selfishness. And that's what material consciousness is. Okay, you want a chart, you want to understand, let's do a chart today. Today, get a little stopwatch and turn it on when you're thinking about yourself. And turn it off when you're thinking about somebody else, or thinking about, not just thinking about yourself, thinking about serving yourself or then serving someone else. And you'll see, we think a lot about ourselves. Oh, this chair, it's not comfortable, thinking about myself. Oh, I wish I had this. If this has anything to do with my sense gratification or comfort, and not in relation to Krishna, then I'm thinking about myself. What do I want to eat today? What am I going to do today? Maybe we should go shopping so I could buy something that I like. I was just talking with my wife last night that, we're so used to thinking about ourselves that we don't even know we're doing it. Okay, let's talk about shopping, my favorite subject, because I'm not a shopper. I throw away stuff. I don't, at least not everything. I mean, some things I need, I buy, obviously. But I like to get rid of things more often than buy things. So every year, every season, there's new clothes styles, right? The guys maybe not so much aware of this, but especially for women, and that's why they have fashion shows. It's the new spring fashion, the summer fashion. White, summer's white, black is... Well, how come summer is white clothes and black is winter clothes? Who thought of that? What shastra is that in? Oh, it's in the fashion shastra, Prabhu. It's in the Vaishya fashion shastra manual. You have to change the styles every season. New jewelry, new styles, new shoes, new purses, new look, new hair color. Yeah, everything's got to be. So, what are we doing? We're shopping for the new styles, so we look trendy, so people won't look at us and look at you and think, you're wearing last year's clothes. Like, what is wrong with you? Where have you been? You are such a loser. You're wearing last year's summer clothes. Why can't you afford new clothes? That's what we're dealing with. So we're so absorbed in, I have to look good, I have to feel good, that we don't realize how much we think about ourselves. So that's why Krishna is saying, even if you can't serve me, serve somebody other than yourself. Go shopping, buy it for somebody else. Go buy a little poor kid something rather than I want to get this new purse. It's so cool. Yeah, go buy it for a little girl. How many people do that? So that's what Krishna is saying. Give up, break that chain. So that's the problem. Chain, chain, chain. That there's a song when I was young. Chain, 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 my baby's got me locked up in chains. I mean, it's true that when you fall in love, you are chained. But we're chained also by this selfishness. And that's why we're here. And that's why we stay here. And if you want to get out of here, you have to break that. Panama. Andre's in Panama. Yeah, Panama. I've been there twice, but only to the airport. But they use U.S. currency, so it was easy to shop in the airport. Okay, Krishna Karshini says, regarding what you said, that we have so much facility to be Krishna conscious nowadays, it seems human psychology is interesting, and I see it myself also, that we tend to take what we have for granted and not use it, yes, properly, what we got. Yeah, that's why we older devotees who grew up without this technology can never take it for granted, because it's like, this is dream come true. This is like what we're all waiting for. All the Vedas in your pocket. All the Vedas. I've got, there was a song when I was young. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hands. And what's the next line? Anybody know the next line? This was like probably 1950s. He's got the whole Vedas in his hand. He's got the whole Vedas in his hand. I mean, who could imagine that when we were young? The whole Vedas. And do you know, like, do you realize, like, this is like insane? So like you're saying, yeah. The problem is, for a lot of us, we look for why we can't be Krishna conscious and what's hard about being Krishna conscious, and then we focus on that. Who knows the last line of that song? He's got the whole world in his hands. That's Krishna they're talking about, right? That, you know, you're going to say, people say, what do you learn in Mahatma Prabhu's class? He goes, well, we learn all these songs from like the 50s and 60s. What else do you learn? I don't know, I can't remember. I only remember the songs. Hopefully, if you remember those songs, you'll remember what we were talking about. The counteractive medicine for taking things for granted is appreciation. But, you know, just try to understand. Let's go back. Okay, it's 1969 when you were in another body, most of you. And I'm coming to the Hare Krishna temple. There are 17 Hare Krishna temples in the universe. I mean, on this planet, 17. And like half of them are like, most of them in the United States. 1/3 of those 17 are in California. And then like maybe one in England and one in France or Germany. There's not like much going on at that time, right? So that, you know, the chances of you becoming a devotee in Poland in 1969 are 0 out of 0. Like, there's no devotees. I mean, unless you went to England and saw the devotees. Like, the chances of you becoming a devotee, getting a book in Poland or in Sweden or in Germany or in Ruske, like, it's, you know. And now, oh, I don't have time to read. There's so much, you know, now we have all these books. You know, in Russia, when they got the books, it's illegal. They were writing, devotees were copying by hand Bhagavad Gita, and then they'd get it, and then they'd copy by hand. So, you know, it's nice to think about what it was like. So here we are, you know, there's hardly any temples, hardly any devotees. And not even the books. There's only Bhagavatam and Gita and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That's it. And a limited number of Bhagavatams also. What Prabhupada brought from India. That's all there was. And a few lectures that were recorded and transcribed that we had of Prabhupada. And nobody, you know, unless you had like a big reel-to-reel 1969, unless you had a big reel-to-reel recorder, you ever seen those? Things were expensive and big. They weighed like 25 kgs. Unless you had one, you couldn't hear Prabhupada's lectures. There was no way to hear it because there were no cassettes that I remember. I think everything was on tape. I don't think cassettes were there in that. Anyway, I remember cassettes coming out in the early 70s, 72 or something. So, yeah. And maybe Krishna Karshani, you should read the history of the world. You know, read about the 50s and 60s, what life was like. And the history of the Hare Krishna movement. The chances of meeting a devotee were very rare. Now there's temples everywhere. So appreciation counteracts taking things for granted. And it's nice to not take it for granted, because then you think, I have so much facility to be Krishna conscious that if I don't become Krishna conscious, I am a total loser. I'm just a loser from head to toe. I could understand 50 years ago, there weren't that many devotees in ISKCON, there weren't that many books, the lectures were probably not that deep, they were probably pretty fanatical, and etc., etc. But now, what's your excuse? Oh, Prabhupada's not here. When Prabhupada was here, it must have been so easy. It's like you look for some stupid excuse not to be Krishna conscious. Why do that? It's like, why kill yourself? Doesn't make sense. You have it easy, everyone. What about that we can't leave if we are not on the stage of prema? Well, stage of bhava. On the stage of bhava, you enter Krishna Lila. On the stage of prema, you enter Krishna Lila on this planet. On the stage of prema, you enter Krishna Lila in the spiritual world. In order to get yourself ready, once you reach the stage of bhava, then you go into Krishna Lila. But as we had discussed, I don't know if you were here in previous classes, we were reading these stories of devotees leaving their bodies, and it seems that Krishna was preparing them to go from like anartha nivritti to bhava in like a week. And just, zoom. So it was amazing what happened. So, yeah, that's general understanding. But we also were discussing this special mercy of Prabhupada. You dedicate your life to the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And it's like, okay, we'll get you into the spiritual world. Like another example of those gates is like once you go through them, whatever you had, residual contamination, it's dissolved. So there's also that idea that in those last weeks or months of your life, miracles can happen by Prabhupada's mercy. And he can prepare you to be qualified or be accepted. So that is the main theme, one of the main themes that's come out of these discussions. That you dedicate your life to Krishna and try as best you can to do what Prabhupada said, to follow the sadhana he gave you, to study his books every day, to chant properly. And just do that and don't worry. You don't have to worry about anything. Just try to give other people Krishna consciousness. Try to be as Krishna conscious as you can. And that's it. Just do that. And don't worry. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry. Where's that song? Who knows that song? Don't worry. You're all too young to know these songs. I don't even know that song. It's just I heard it once. I was somewhere in line somewhere, and they were playing that song. It was really upbeat. But that's the idea. Like Krishna says, don't worry. Surrender to me, don't worry. That's the whole idea of the transcendental insurance policy. So, like Prabhupada has given us so much service, so we don't think, well, if I do this service, maybe it'll compromise my sadhana in some way and I won't go back to Godhead. We might be concerned about compromising our sadhana. That's definitely true. But generally, we don't think, well, if I do this service, will I go back to Godhead? Or if, maybe I should read this book, because if I read this book, I'll go back to Godhead. Or maybe I should go to bed earlier, because if I go to bed early, then I can get up earlier, which is good, of course. And if I can do that, then I can read this book every morning, and I know if I read this book, then I'll go back to Godhead. It's not exactly how a devotee thinks. He's not calculating like that. The devotee is thinking more like, what will please Prabhupada? What will please my Guru? What will please the Vaishnavas? What am I supposed to do? In knowing that if I do that, I don't have to worry about anything else. It will all come. That's how we should think. So, but I'm not on the stage of prema. Yeah, don't worry. You'll get there. This process will get you there. And by Prabhupada's mercy, anything can happen. Devananda from Las Vegas says, what if you've lost all your money in a slot machine? No, he didn't say that. Question about the spiritual world. The Vaikuntha planets are where Krishna's worship in regal form, and Goloka, where Krishna's off duty. Oh, that's funny. Is that what Prabhupada said? He's off duty? Or that's Devananda's from California. That sounds very California. He's off duty in Vrindavan, completely intimate. Is it possible to fall from the Vaikuntha planets once getting there? And on the other side, is it still possible to ascend from there to Goloka? Yeah, anything's possible, but it's not going to happen. Pretty sure the story of Gopakumar means that it's... Well, Gopakumar wasn't living on the Vaikuntha planets. So Prabhupada was asked this question. He said two things. Because you can... Spiritual life is dynamic, and you can always change your position, he said, but your rasa is your rasa, so why would you want to change it? Now, if you come and engage in Gauranga Leela or get Gauranga's mercy, you can also expand your body and take part in his Leela. So that can happen by his mercy. So even you're Vaikuntha Basi and you somehow get his mercy, you could engage in Navadvip in the spiritual world, in his Leela. So, as once you go there, you won't fall down. You never fall down, never fall down. Once going, you'll never fall down. But he said, it's possible, but we've discussed this before. My understanding is it's possible in the sense that you're independent, so you could fall down, but also philosophically, it's not possible because you don't. So it's like, yeah, you could, but you don't. And Krishna says when you go there, you don't fall down. Can the Vaikuntha residents, in theory, they could? Has it happened? It happens, and definitely happens in Chaitanya Leela, that they get to go in Mahaprabhu's Leelas and get that special prema. But like with Murari Gupta, that love is just love for Lord Ram. That's what he kept. But he got blessed by Mahaprabhu. So that love for Lord Ram hit some high points by the mercy of Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, because you're probably asking, well, sounds good, I could enter Chaitanya Leela, also if I'm somewhere else. So how do I do that? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, just by wanting it. If you want to enter Chaitanya Leela, you can. And then you might be thinking, but how could I have two forms that do two different things? One in Braj and one in Gauranga Leela. You don't have to worry about that. And if you're trying to figure out how, that's only because it doesn't make sense to you from the material perspective. So many things won't make sense from the material perspective. How can my body expand? I can be in two places at one time. It's one soul, two bodies. Does the soul divide? I don't understand. Yeah, don't worry. You don't have to understand. But if you desire that, it will happen. Because the soul, spiritual realm is not conditioned by material limitation. So yes, the answer is sort of yes. But Gopakumar, he was actually a cowherd boy. That's his eternal rasa. So that's why he ended up there. It wasn't like he was in Vaikuntha Bhav and then he developed a desire from Vaikuntha. No, that he was already a cowherd boy. So it wasn't evolving. So if you're a cowherd boy and you end up in Vaikuntha, you're going to be thinking, what am I doing here? This is the wrong place for me. You're going to go up to Lord Vishnu and go, hey, what's going down? Give him one of those, like the bros do, however they do it. Hey, Vishnu, what's up? What's up, man? Yeah. If you do that in Vaikuntha, everyone's going to be like they would be in England. Oh, oh. But if you do it in Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys will just be laughing. Oh, yeah, what's going on here? Yeah, they'll be doing it too. So, yeah, we could say Vaikuntha is like England, and Braj is kind of like California. Yeah. In England, everything must be proper. A Prabhu, that is not proper. That is not the Queen's English, Prabhu. It must not be done that way. So everything in Vaikuntha must be proper. And in California, it's like, hey, chillin', hey, laid back. Oh my God, yeah, awesome, dude, yeah. That's more like Vrindavan. Not the best analogy, but you understand, right? So if you're a California boy like me and you go, or like Donald Trump, not California, but he went to meet the Queen and he made a mess out of it because he's an American and he doesn't actually know the etiquette. You're not supposed to walk in front of the Queen. Well, he walked in front. Things like that. So, there's different etiquette in Braj. So it won't work. If that's your Ras, you'll go to Vaikuntha and you'll drive everybody nutty. And you'll be thinking, what's wrong? That's my buddy. It's my buddy Vishnu, We are cowherd boys. I said, not here. This is Vaikuntha. It doesn't work like that. So Parker Brown says, just build Mayapur and you go back to Godhead. But you can't just build Mayapur unless you're Krishna conscious. Exactly. That's when Prabhupada's saying, just distribute books and you go back to Godhead. How do you do that if you're not Krishna conscious? So it works both ways. If you distribute books, it'll make you Krishna conscious, but unless you're Krishna conscious, how can you distribute books? It goes back and forth. So when Prabhupada's saying, just distribute my books your whole life, I'm like, okay, how am I going to do that unless I'm very Krishna conscious? But if I can do that, that is going to make me more Krishna conscious. So I have to be Krishna conscious to do it, and that will make me more Krishna conscious, so they work together. Desmond says, I've always been a little confused about the distinctions between Vaikuntha and Goloka. Sometimes it seems Srila Prabhupada would sometimes use the term. Yeah, he did. That's a very good point. Sometimes Prabhupada would use the term Vaikuntha as a general term for the spiritual world. When you can see within the context he's speaking, he's actually talking about Vrindavan in the spiritual world, or Goloka. It's a big place. A lot goes on there, but it's different from Vaikuntha. But Vaikuntha also is sometimes used as the general term for the spiritual world. And you go back to the spiritual world. Vaikuntha actually means where there's no anxiety. So definitely, that was there. And even though Mahaprabhu came to give prema in the mood of the gopis, but Prabhupada often would talk about going back to Vaikuntha, even sometimes going back to Vishnu, talk about becoming a mother or a friend. So it wasn't like Prabhupada was saying, we're only gopis. That's the only rasa there is for all of us. So it was very general, inclusive to all people and all rasas. But whenever Prabhupada says Vaikuntha, it's like this. If you have a nickname for somebody, and whatever that nickname is, when that name, and someone says that nickname or you say that nickname, you think of that particular person, right? Judge so-and-so. But if your relationship with Judge so-and-so is your golf partners, you just think of Judge, when they say Judge so-and-so, you think of Ron, Judge Ron Berry, all right? Was that a Judge Ron Berry just made a critical decision on this court case. But when they say Judge Ron Berry, for you, that's Ron, your golf partner. So you just see the golf cart and the golf clubs when they say Judge. You don't see the judge in the cape, right? So when we hear the word Vaikuntha or we hear the word Vishnu, we think Vrindavan, Krishna, Shyam Sundar. That's what we think because that's our focus. So whenever Prabhupada says Vaikuntha or Vishnu, as devotees, that's just Ron, my golf mate. That's Krishna, the cowherd boy. That's Krishna, the lover of Radha. That's how we see it. So you see according to your devotion. The lyrics to the Chains song, one of the lyrics is, chains, my babies got me locked up in chains, and they ain't the kind you can see. Okay, yeah. Maya, she got me locked up in chains, and they ain't gonna change. My baby's got me locked up in chains. That is, yeah, that is. That is how it is. That is what it is. That's the way it works. We couldn't have said it any better. I'm locked up in chains. But somehow or other, we volunteer for being locked up in chains. That's another class. Okay. Too much technology become weapons of mass distraction. Yes. They are total mass distraction. He's got the whole world in his hands. Okay, what are the lyrics? If I click there, do I get to the lyrics? The whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole... Yeah, that's the line. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world. It's gospel, right? In his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. It's gospel, right? You ever see people singing gospel in church? It's like very amazing. You know, they're singing songs in English glorifying God, and they're really getting into it. Yeah, that's a nice song. I don't know if you sang it in the temple, what people would think. They might, escort you out. If you sing that for Artik, I don't know, might get in trouble. But, and you can say, but it's Shastra Prabhu, he's got the whole world in his hands. Okay. The last line is the same as the first one. Yeah, I figured that out. See? Brain is still working after, that song is old. Devananda, when did that song come out? That's like 50s or something. What mass destruction? That is what Radhanath Swami started talking about a couple of years ago. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful. The 11th offense to the holy name is to have your phone on while you're chanting. Be careful. Be careful. Every day you need to fast for hours. Put it up in a safe. Throw away the key for a while. And on Sunday, God rested. On Sunday you can turn your phone off. Should we have a practice? We all turn our phones off on Sunday? Davina says, sometimes we can become complacent in our practice and start to think, what I'm doing is okay. I think if I keep carrying on like this, I'll be fine. How can we move away from this and keep pushing ourselves to do more? Well, pushing yourself to do more is not so much like I can be more and do more, but that I could be and do more for Krishna. I could be and do more for Prabhupada. I could be and do more for my guru. So it's not so much of a personal thing. Secondly, this is such a good question. We need like a whole 10-week seminar on this topic. But we want to start with the principle. We want to start with this. This is the idea I like to start with when you want to become more serious about bhakti, or you want to move from where you are to another level. It's just to think of the rarity of bhakti and the privilege that we have of being devotees, and how and the opportunities we have are unprecedented in the history of the universe. And so, for me to be what Prabhupada calls a casual devotee, for me to not be inspired, for me not to be motivated, for me not to be willing to do some austerity, for me just to be kind of like, everything's okay, as long as I get my dal rice and chapatis, I'm fine, got my rounds done, everything's good. That's okay, but when we start to think of what potentially we can achieve, and how we've been pretty much given it all to us on a silver plate, it's much more difficult when you think that way to be complacent. It doesn't make sense anymore. So if you can work it out in your mind in such a way that you look at Krishna consciousness from this angle of vision to the point that it stops making sense to be complacent. It stops making sense to just be thinking about what will make me comfortable. Now, there's another side to this, what you're saying, which is not bad, is that you're happy and you're stable in Krishna consciousness. I'm happy, I'm satisfied. That's good. But if you know in your heart of hearts you could be better and you could do more, that can be an impetus for you, because it's really hard to live with yourself knowing you could be better, isn't it? Now, for some of us, maybe we're doing our best, and our best is going to be different. Your best may not be the same as my best, the same as her best. But as they say, we're not competing with anyone else, we're only competing with ourselves. And so if I can do more, if I can be more and do more to please Prabhupada, to please my spiritual master, it doesn't make sense not to do that. If I could be doing something more in service, if I could be a better devotee, be more pleasing to Krishna and Prabhupada and my Guru, then does it really make sense to just say, but I'm okay as it is? Okay, you're okay. But the world's not okay. The world needs you. The world needs you, Divina, to be more than okay. Prabhupada needs you to be more than okay. I need you to be more than okay. That's how we have to think. Now, it doesn't mean you push yourself to this point where you crash and burn, where you try to do something you can't. It's all about what's the next level, not the next 10 steps. Okay, what's on the horizon? If I were to be better today than yesterday, what would that look like? What's the next step? How could I be better? And a reflection, well, how did I do yesterday? How could I do better today? I was actually thinking about this morning when I woke up. There's certain things that I need to get done, and somehow they're not getting done. The first thing I woke up this morning, I was thinking, how am I going to get all this done? What do I have to do internally in terms of my mind, externally in terms of organization? What I'm going to have to do to get all this done? That was my first thought. So it's like, what do I have to do to be better? So, it's an interesting question, because in one sense, being satisfied is very good. I'm happy, I'm a devotee, I'm doing okay. But in another sense, it can become an enemy if you could be better, and you know you could be better, and you know you're not doing more, or you're not pushing yourself because you feel like, well, I'm okay as it is. I think it can also be part of your own psychology, that maybe your own psychologist, once you get to kind of C+, B-, you're like, okay, that's good enough. Why sweat it? I know I have a friend, he's like that. He's a certain threshold, let's say an area. So when he gets in, he's like, oh, and I say, well, why don't you go up here? He goes, well, it's fine here. I don't want to put myself in anxiety. I don't want to have to push myself. So it can be a psychology, like okay is okay. And it's better for us if okay isn't okay. The last thing I would want to say is I think for me and many of us as disciples of Prabhupada who saw how Prabhupada worked and saw what he did, Prabhupada was kind of like the emblem of you can always do more. But not only you can always do more, we must do more. The world is suffering, we need to do more. Prabhupada was very successful, but he was always pushing. No, we need more temples. We need more books. We need farms. We need schools. He was always pushing. Now it's time for Varnashram. He never said, yeah, we're okay, we're good enough. One time he said, okay, we're not training our devotees, so what's the use of making more devotees? Let's boil the milk. But that was circumstantial. The general flow was double it, basically. So Prabhupada's disciples they're satisfied, but they're not satisfied. And that's the paradox of bhakti. You're satisfied because just like right now we're hearing and chanting, and it's very blissful to hear and chant. It's very purifying. It's very satisfying. But at the same time, we're not satisfied because we know we could be better and we know we could do more to spread Krishna consciousness. Lately I was thinking, there's not a world of difference when you're online between reaching 1,000 people and 100,000 people. It's like a few insights in how to do that, and all of a sudden you put out something on the internet and 100,000 people see it instead of 1,000. So I'm always thinking 100,000. Thinking, I have videos up. I don't follow how much, but the only thing I think that's over 100,000 is my Brahma Samhita. But that's probably been up a long time, and it's probably mostly Indians. But outside of that, thinking, okay, this is good. So many people see it, but why not 100,000 or 1,000,000 or 10 million? That was Prabhupada's mood. So it got into our hearts, or like we wanted to promote Prabhupada, or many devotees want to promote Prabhupada and promote his books. So why 5,000? Why print 5,000? Why not print 500,000? We'll distribute them. We want to figure out how to do that. Why not make Prabhupada more famous? Or why not help promote the teachings of my guru? My guru wrote a book and he's only sold 5,000. Let's figure out how to sell 500,000. I think the devotee disciples of Radha Swami did very well with that. Sold hundreds of thousands of his books because they were thinking, okay, this is such a good book, we have to get it out to the world. So if they were like, whoever reads it, it's okay, it's a great book, we have it. No, they thought, we want to make this a New York Times bestseller. So that's just what Prabhupada did, and it infected us, and so that's how we see. So that's how we should see. That's what I would say. And now, as promised, because every little thing is going to be all right. What song is that from? It's going to be all right after you go back to Godhead. Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Yeah, that's Maya's song. Maya comes, Don't Worry, Be Happy. She says, I got you covered, but actually she wants you to put your head on her lap so she could chop it off. And I'll just don't be happy. It's reggae. Yeah. It's a good song for Brazil, right? Okay. Don't Worry, Be Happy. It's Bobby McFerrin. Yeah, you wrote. That must have been a popular song, right? Wow, we're learning about songs. All our concerns come to the fact that we did not abandon ourselves to Krishna. Yeah. Looks like I should consider moving. No, London is good. It's so cold and dark. You'll want to go back to Godhead. Funny how I can understand you and not understand you simultaneously. Yeah. It's amazing. Is it true Goloka is so huge that it's spreading everywhere? I'm not sure, but there's no limitation. There's room for you up there, don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, I have bad news. If you don't get back to Godhead in this lifetime, there may not be room for you. I think the gates are going to close about 2035, so maybe 2050. Some of you are younger. You better get back to Godhead now. But Prabhupada's mood was, do it now. Just don't trust the future. If Krishna Karshani, if coming back to Krishna this life is possible, I have many unfulfilled desires. One side of me wants to come back and finish this nightmare called material life, but the other side wants to fulfill the desire. I feel confused. You'll never fulfill the desire. Don't worry. The best verse for you, Krishna Karshani. Excuse me. The best verse for you is the Krishna describing the mode of passion. And Krishna describes the mode of passion. He says your desires will never be fulfilled. Doesn't matter how many you fulfill, There's always going to be a new one popping up, you know. It's like the bubble in fulfilling material desires is like the bubble in the carpet. No matter, we need a song for Krishna consciousness. No matter what you get, no matter what you do, no matter what success you achieve, you're always gonna want something more, 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 more. That's what Krishna says. It's the bubble in the carpet. So I get the bubble out, it pops up somewhere else. I press it there, it pops up. That's the problem with the mode of passion. And what does Krishna say? You get taste from it, but then it turns into poison because it doesn't satisfy you. And so because it doesn't satisfy you, that's why you look for doing it again. There's this beautiful verse, Krishna Karshan. He said, it said, maybe Chanakya or some Niti Shastra. He said there's like 3 or 4 things that 4 things that man has never been satisfied with and never will be satisfied with. He said, 1 is food. He said, no matter how much you eat, you always want more. Money, no matter how much you... I just saw this guy was advertising a course, and this guy made like $700 million last year, and it's like, why don't you retire? And he's just like working hard, and you know people like that, they just can't stop. So, food... No matter how much you eat, you'll never be perfectly satisfied. It's only temporary. You want more. No matter how much money you get, you'll never be perfectly satisfied. You always want more. No matter how much sex you get, you'll never be perfectly satisfied. You always want to be more. And then the 4th one was life itself. No matter how much you live, whatever you have, you'll never be satisfied. He said, these things people have never been satisfied with. They're not satisfied with now, and they'll never be satisfied with in the future. So you have to understand, no matter what desires you fulfill, it's never going to end. You're thinking, well, if I just fulfill this desire, then I can go back to Godhead. I'll be happy. No, you fulfill that desire, it's going to generate another desire. And another desire, and another desire. That's point 1. Point 2, all your desires will be fulfilled with Krishna in the spiritual world. There's no way... Has any man fulfilled his desire in the material world? Has any person not fulfilled their desire in the spiritual world? So you have to think of it like that. Gospel changed my life. My mom took me to the black church. Wow. Woo! Yeah. Gospel is like, it's so, I think it's, I came across this gospel song, and it had the word rosary in it. I was like, oh, it just came up on my screen. And they did a recording in a church. It was amazing. By a guy named Troy something. And I guess the song's called Rosary. And I thought, I was just watching it and how they were so into it. Like they're feeling the spirit. So I sent it to Havi, and then Havi sent me back. He said, I have a gospel kirtan I'm working on. So he came and played it. It's amazing. He said it's not finished yet because it's in the wrong key. He has to change it. This is amazing, beautiful gospel kirtan, and he's going to get gospel singers to do it. So we're going to have a real gospel kirtan. Kamini, what movie? It's amazing, Amazing Grace, Aretha Franklin singing in her own church. Pure gospel. Wow, yeah. It's like, we have kirtan, we're fortunate, but I was in this place called Dominica. It's in the Caribbean. And on Saturday night, you drive around, and all the churches, they're doing kirtan. Of course, it's English. They're singing their gospel everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is like, they're doing kirtan in their own way. When I chant my rounds, I chant 2 Maha Mantras with sound and 2 in my mind. The reason is that I try to do a regular respiration when inhale and chant in mind while I exhale. Is it right? It's okay. You don't have to worry, as long as I'll ask you the question, is it right based on your experience? Is it helping you? Like, Hare Krishna. I actually learned how to chant breathing in. I don't know how to do it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Krishna Krishna. I do that. Hare I whisper and breathe in. So I guess I do the same thing you do, unconsciously. How do we know that we are doing our best? Maybe we think we do. Ask your husband, he'll tell you. Or your spouse, or your wife, she'll tell you. Ask your guru, am I doing my best? Well, be prepared for the answer. Maybe you don't want to ask that question to your guru, because then you'll have to be prepared for the answer. How do we know we're doing our best? I think the general answer is nobody's doing their best. You think, I'm doing my best, I can't do any more? Come on, just ask yourself, what could I do better than I'm doing? You'll have a whole list, like 108 things I could do better than I'm doing now. You'll, at least 20. Make a list of 20. Okay, here's the answer to Krishna Karshini's question. We can all do this. Make a list of 20 things you can do better. So Davina definitely is going to do that because she asked the question. Krishna Karshini is definitely going to do that because she asked the question. And everyone else, you can do it if you want to. See how it can be better. This may not be a topic for this talk, but maybe in a different broadcast, could you address the topic, when does self-love become self-egotism? And what is true self-love? There is so much talk. Oh yeah, what a great question. When does self-love, I love myself, I'm part of Krishna. Prabhupada said you love yourself because you're part of Krishna, so loving yourself means loving Krishna. And when you love yourself disjointed from Krishna, and you just think you're the greatest thing that ever happened to the earth, and you sit there in front of the mirror and say, I love you, you're so beautiful. That's false ego, and that separates you from Krishna. So, general answer for anything. What brings you closer to Krishna, or what separates you? And that's how you distinguish. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Is that another song like that? You're so beautiful. There must be a million songs like that. Yeah, you as a soul are beautiful. But when false ego, you think, I'm so beautiful, I'm so wonderful, I love myself so much. That probably is going to pull you away from Krishna. Yeah, it is a big topic. The paradox of bhakti, yeah. Now remind me, what was the paradox I was talking about? I totally forgot. I got so excited I forgot. What was that paradox? I gave a series of classes on self-love, yeah. It's called self-love or self-compassion, self-hate, something like that. You should be able to find it on SoundCloud. Self-something, I think it's self-compassion and self-envy, and self-compassion or self-love. I've written articles on it also. On my SoundCloud, Mahatma Das on SoundCloud. Tavina says, sometimes we may have a goal in mind, but the moment we don't achieve it where we want it, we could end up being back to our comfort zone and get complacent. Yeah, and it also may be, well, it could be also you achieve it, you become complacent. We don't achieve it, you convince yourself, I don't want it anyway, sour grapes. But there's maybe some goals that are not right for you, that it's better you don't achieve them. But I will say this, Divina and Krishna Karshini, if you are inspired by something, if you're really connected to who you are, what your nature is, and how you should serve, you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to, we can do it better, right? So, like Davina's going to do, Bhakti Burfi video, right? She's going to do one, and we're going to look at it. And we're all going to look at it. And the Davina is going to say, that was good, but we can do it better. Right? So that's natural. If you're inspired, and if you're not inspired, you'll think, that was so hard to do, I can't do any better than that. Because you're not inspired. Your inspiration is somewhere else. Okay, I don't know the words, many words to this song, but I did promise you, for those of you who've never heard the song, this is Lord Chaitanya's Moon is Rising. I don't have the words in front of me, but Lord Chaitanya's moon is rising, although it's not at all surprising that we're dancing in the street, telling everyone we meet we're going home. We're going home. Have you heard this before? I think I know one more verse. The world is dark and full of sorrow. Will there come a bright tomorrow? Will the heavy-hearted man never see the light again? Or will they cry forever die? And then they had a Hare Krishna mantra that they would sing in between. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You can sing along. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, stay tuned tomorrow for the second half of the song. Or maybe we'll sing the whole song when I get the words. But now it's late. Thank you all. We will see you tomorrow. And we will have more fun talking about Krishna. Because talking about Krishna is so much fun. I can't stop talking. I can't stop chanting. I'm losing my mind. That was another song. It wasn't I can't stop chanting. It was I can't. What was it? I can't stop. I forget. Can't stop something. Ray Charles or something. That's another song. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.